Good afternoon, Andy. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, Michael.
I got to tell you, I really love the title of this tour because it says so much, and it just really encompasses everything about you. The Cracked Lens and Missing String tour, because your photography, your music, everything is going to be coming to life on this tour.
Yeah, that is really what it is, and I'm surprised it took me so long to actually pull it all together. But I was doing it, 3 years ago, and then got struck down by the pandemic, just like everybody else. But I'm really happy to have.
Are you taking a camera lens with you? Because you make such great documentaries. It'd be really fascinating to watch this whole entire thing come to a theater somewhere where, look at what Taylor Swift is doing and things. I would love to see this on a big flat screen TV as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, we have had a great photographer that I'd already made another TV show with earlier in the year. And he was with me, and we did he came to 3 shows, photographed the show, and we did a whole 3 days in New York City. So you might be right. It might be that we'll see where it goes. We're going, well, we're not sure what we're going to do with it. It might be just social media. I'm thinking that we got enough stuff and a lot of very funny stuff that could actually be a documentary, like a actual movie. So you're right on it. Yeah.
Don't you love being inside that intimate theater in the way that you can see the reaction from the fans up close instead of being in that big
nice, it's sort of a bit like the old days. You play in a stadium, it's like, yeah, they're out there somewhere. But it's a very different experience. This is where you're really on stage. People can see you, and you have to be very honest and very what's the right word? In your mind, in your body. You have to be very present. Because I talk to the audience quite a lot. I tell 4 or 5 stories, which go down really well. But there's nothing else. You're naked. You're there, and that's it. And then I go back to playing the guitar.
That's so funny that you say that, because I just read an article about how Hollywood needs to learn from the musicians right now, because you've mastered the art of storytelling, and that's what people are really craving right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to meet another guy later today that we've been talking about doing a sort of a special kind of guitar show, that guitar around the world. But he said, he's a guy who's in the business like a producer, and he's telling me all they want now is music. They want music. And so anyway, I'm going to meet him later today.
When you're up there with all the photos and the music, does it feel like that you are the inside sleeve of that album? Because when you're telling the stories and we see the photos and things, oh my God, that reminds me of the album days.
Yeah, I think we all, those of us who are of the right age still miss our vinyl LPs and all the rest of it. There was, you can't put a photograph on a stream or something. We used to have so much fun. Well, I've had a lifetime of it, putting your albums, even CDs, and really working out the artwork and all that, how you present it. It was always great fun, such a joy to do all that, and now it's kind of gone. Although they do, my last 3 records all were made as long, play vinyl albums as well as CDs, and so I had some fun with them. And I think we've got to the point where you can make vinyl albums of your current record, and it sells better than the CDs.
I can't imagine what went into building the show, because with the photography as well as the music, and now you've got to be on that stage, and the right photo has to be up there. To build it, you're orchestrating a brilliant piece of artwork each night that you hit that stage.
Yeah. Well, it did take some time, and I kept changing it. You're trying to nudge a whole series of pieces into a coherent whole. I also don't like to, let's say, lock it down completely, because it's a work in progress, and as we've been out on the road since July, on and off, we've been able to make some, good little changes as we go along, and, the way we have got all the sequences, which order they're in. So, I like to be very sort of alive with the show. I like it's not locked down forever. Certain things, when I tell the stories every night I've never rehearsed them, never thought them through. I just start talking, and I know the coherent points. and I just do it. I'm not fazed by it.
Would you say that your photographs are of a time period that modern times will one day get back to? In other words, they're serving as a ticket to ride for us to go into that area where your eye used to be?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, at the end of the show, for instance, right on that point you're making, I finally sort of give them what you want moment, and I play 3 Police songs, and I used all that, well, not all of it, but all that photography I shot all over the US in the 80s with the Police. So it's a real look at Americana, the band then, and the state of the US, physically, when I was driving all over the US doing thousands of shows. And that's where we end it. But, these photographs span, quite a number of years. I was very active I've never stopped. And, I like to use some very current stuff. I do, like the third piece in is called The Bones of Chuangzi. And that photography was all shot, about 5 or 6 years ago in China. I went all over China. I went to China 8 times, and I did a huge amount of photography there. So I have a lot to draw from. But you still have to have it kind of make sense. Because I feel like with each piece like that, I'm taking people on a trip. I do Tea in the Sahara, and there was a point when I actually went to Africa, and I went to the Sahara Desert, and I did a lot of photography there. And so who knew that, some years later I'll be traveling around the Midwest pictures of the Sahara with Tea in the Sahara is the music I play. Yeah. So
what is it about photography and musicians? Is it because when you're writing a song, you envision it and then the photography makes it authentic?
I guess you work through things like that, and somehow you have a sensibility, and you think, well, these two actually go really well together. They both enhance each other to make kind of a third entity out of it. I used to do film scoring years ago until I got sort of fed up with the business of it. But this is very much, it's sort of akin to music and film. How does it all go together? You're creating a mood, you want to create a certain kind of impact with it.
What listeners need to understand is that you're also a brilliant short story writer. And I think that's so fascinating how you've tapped into that energy as a writer with what you're doing with photography, what you do with music. As that writer, though, do you hear music when you're putting those paragraphs together?
No, actually. I mean, it's an interesting thing you were saying because like in the room I'm sitting in now where I mainly work, I've got one computer over there in the corner, like a 27-inch screen I've got my whole photographic archive, and it's organized in a really good way so I can find everything. And, I've tried putting sequence together, playing music in the room at the same time. Sometimes I'm into it, sometimes I'm not. Sometimes it's nice, just sort of something there in the background. And then with writing, no, I can only be in the writing, because I'm trying to write sentences that have musicality, if you like, because I'm, as a musician and as a, long practicing, improvising guitar player, I'm influenced by that. And so in the writing, I think about, the musicality of a sentence or a phrase or a paragraph, and where you should just put, have a paragraph and then just have 2 words as the next sentence, then a space, then, so on and so forth. It's rhythmic and musical.
Yeah, because my last book, I did exactly that. There would only be two words in that entire sentence, and I felt, man, a reader's going to get this, or are they just going to think this guy needs to go back to grammar school?
That's very hip. It's modern. I like that. I mean, just take outside of what the content is, and you've got a white page. Just look at it in shapes of where the lines are. How much black do you want there? Then there's 1 line of black. Then there's more white. Then there's 2 strips. The actual page, the sort of graphic look of the page, is something as well. And it's a way to make a point in the writing. It's really important.
How do you deal with those moments where the creativity, I mean, you see something and all of a sudden you're moved and it's like, okay, do I write about this? Do I sing a song about this? Or do I grab the camera? Which one comes first?
Well, that's a great point. I don't know if I do that. You know, if I'm with a camera, I'm probably just going to like, oh, I like the way those two things are playing off each other. I don't think I actually think of all three things at once. I think you'd probably end up in the insane asylum.
Yeah, because I've always based things like that on just different sides of your personality or mindsets. And you don't seem to be the type of person that has to be in the mood to be creative. It just happens.
Well, you know, listen, you know, when I go out on tour and I go, okay, I've got the cameras, I'm going to go out, I get into very much a photography mindset. So it's after a while, you know, everything looks like a picture to me, but you can't shoot everything. But your, let's say your visual sense wakes up, you reawaken it. Oh, it's back. Okay, I'm starting to see again, you know. And so it is like that. And then, you know, obviously if I pick up the guitar and I start playing, then it's all that stuff starts to come back.
So now on this current tour, will you get out and explore some of the towns that you're going in?
Yeah, I have. I actually had very incredible experience in photography. You know, I mean, well, let's say within the last week, the last show was a place called Greensburg, which is essentially Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh has got these incredible, or had, you know, the steel mills, the furnaces, you know, there's amazing, like, industrial things from the 1880s. And I had said to the guy who was with me, like the sort of tour manager, you know, when we go to Pittsburgh, I want to go to one of those things. I thought they were all still there because I remember them years ago, you know, and it was like the old industrial age. There's only one set left. And we found out that you could do a private tour. And so, you know, on the day, I think I did play that night. So we went to the Pittsburgh area earlier in the day. It was between 12 and 2 to do a 2-hour walkthrough of this amazing place. And I got to tell you, you know, this guy was pretty sweet, funny, funky guy. He was the tour guide and he oversaw the whole thing because it's really like a museum. It's like a, you know, whatever you call it, you know, the last remnant of the incredible industrial age with all that, you know, they produced coal, coke, oil. I mean, and so you walk through this building, which is completely rusting, and so many levels and areas, pipes, you know, cauldrons, furnaces. It was absolutely mind-blowing. One of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, I think, was walking through that building. I almost go back. And the guy was incredible with his rap, if you like, about all the different parts. But it was kind of overwhelming. I've never seen anything because it's all rusting steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And of course, I was shooting like mad because I've never seen anything like it. Like an amazing monument. It was like a sort of artwork in rusting steel. Incredible.
That's the craziest thing about time is that, you know, I mean, you can't rush time. And when that's why that picture is so brilliant, because I mean, I was sitting here thinking about the factory you're going through, thinking about the men and women that put that building together. It's almost like they gave it to the future. And then the vision you get for it now is because somebody was there long before us.
Yeah, well, the lives and bodies that went through that place, or, you know, there were several of them in the old days. And I think this is the only one that's left. Amazing, you know, the workers who were in there in this incredible heat, you know, where they heat things up to 4,000 degrees. And man, you know, it's another era. And, you know, I was incredibly impressed by it.
Wow.
It has this presence, you know, you're inside this thing going, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Is there a side of your creative personality that you would like to set up, maybe even just a 6-string guitar and just sing in there just to hear the acoustics?
Well, I eventually, you know, this guy was so accommodating and nice to be with. I said, man, I could shoot a video. He said, oh, don't worry about it. They've already done it. They're on it. People have done it, you know. It's got an incredible visual. It's so visual. Amazing. You know, it's like a palace of steel. I don't see anything like it, but it's still there. You should go and take a look.
See, that's what I love about your photography. It's almost like you are the tour guide as well. And so maybe even when you're sharing it on the stage, are you impersonating that guide that took you through that factory?
Well, it's a nice way to look at it. Yeah, because, you know, for instance, I went all the way through China and all these places. And so, in a way, I feel like on some level, I'm saying this is what I did in my life. I went and saw all this and I sort of documented it, and I was very moved by it. And so now I'm going to show it all to you, and I'm going to play the guitar to it. So, yeah, Yeah, I mean, I do it with, let's say, I'm not just tossing it off lightly. These were intense travels, and it's all done with a lot of soul. So, and I think people are sort of getting it.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about being that author, you seem to be the type of person that would use a writing instrument. Do you write it out first, or do you go directly to the computer? Because I love the way that you write.
Oh, thank you, mate. Well, I have notes that, I remember when mostly I think I start sketching it out in my head.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a process and it's technical to a degree, and you've got to sort of know what you're doing. I have ideas, and then like, okay, this, like say I wrote about some guy with a guitar and I don't know, some situation he's in, I get a few notes, and then I think probably the next way to proceed with it is to actually start writing it and see if anything comes, like you get more ideas and you kind of build it until finally you've kind of got the whole thing, and then you probably rewrite it.
Yep. So
it's really, in whatever people think, it's all in the rewriting. I mean, I've got the contract for the next book, which is called The Trouble with Guitars. And the idea of it, the concept is that my life has been marked by guitars, Stratocaster, Gibson 335, whatever, so since I was 11 years old, there's always been the guitar, the Telecaster, for instance. So I came up with about 30 guitars that have sort of marked stages of life in my life. And basically, I'm at that age, whatever it is, 18, 28, whatever, and with a certain guitar. And then it's what was going on in my life. And mostly, of course, it's all like tricky circumstances, what I was going through at various stages, but that I had this one guitar, and that's sort of the idea so it's sort of I guess you call it biographical. Wow. But the guitars are the signifiers along the road. And so I pulled it out yesterday because I'm sort of in the middle of the process with the publisher, and I was checking all the writing and spotted a few things here and there.
You've got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Andy. The door is always going to be open for you.
That's very kind. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
All right. Thank you. Thanks for the interview. Night talk. Thank you.